At various levels of learning, whether in the formal environment or the informal and non-formal environment, learners learn at different levels. And at these different levels, we understand that each individual has what they know and what they may have mastered, and other things, other tasks, other activities that they may not have yet mastered or do not know. And so there's this gap between what you know and what you can know if you learn or you are guided. And this gap in the context of psychology and education is referred to as the zone of proximal development. And the zone of proximal development, shortened as the ZPD, is a concept or theory which was introduced by a Russian psychologist called Lev Vygotsky. And Vygotsky introduced this idea or this concept because it helps us to know or understand, particularly when it comes to learning, that individuals can become better at specific subjects or specific concepts by being assisted. And so every learner has what they have already mastered or know. And if they are given the needed guidance or assistance, they can move on to the next level by themselves over time. And so the zone of proximal development refers to a range of tasks or activities related to learning that the learner cannot perform independently but can achieve or be able to perform those tasks if they are guided or assisted over time by a more experienced person. And so, if we look at it in the context of a teacher and a student, the student has his or her own zone of proximal development. And if you understand this, you will also understand that each individual student may be operating at different ZPDs. And so you may have 30 students in one class, and a number of them may be within the same zone of proximal development, meaning that there are certain tasks, certain assignments, certain concepts and theories and all that that they cannot by themselves be able to understand except they are guided. And once they receive the needed guidance, they will become better off. And within that same class of students, you may realize that because the set PDs are different, there are some students in the class who can become a source of help to the other students because they are at a higher level in understanding some of the concepts, some of the topics. And so they can become the more knowledgeable expert or guide to the other students who need a little assistance in order to understand the difficult concepts. So there are some four key things that we can pick from the zone of proximal development, which is the gap between what you know as a learner and what you can learn to do or accomplish if guided or supported. The first one is that in understanding your ZPD or the ZPD of your students, you will learn to provide individualized or unique teaching support to them. And so, if you are a teacher or you are a tutor, an instructor in learning, you will be able to provide learning instructions that meet the specific zone of development of your learners. And so you know their strengths, you know their weaknesses, you are interested in understanding what previous knowledge they have about the topic you want to teach or the concept you want to explain. And by knowing what level each of the students are, or generally the students are, you can now tailor your teaching and your explanation to meet their level of understanding such that as you progress, they will be catching up until the point where, without you even giving them clues or assisting them, they can by themselves explain those concepts and be able to solve any particular assignments or tasks given in that regard. And the second key thing is what we call scaffolding, which is a concept that has become associated over time with the zone of proximal development. And if you think of a scaffold in building or construction, a scaffold is like a temporary structure that is done so that those that are building or constructing that edifice can step on it, sit on it, use that as a platform to be able to put up the actual building. So it's temporary. So in the learning process, for instance, if you were a teacher, you providing certain clues, certain formulas that are easier for the students so that they will be able to solve the math question. You being able to adjust some of the topics such that you break it down to the level of the students is a way of helping them to gradually catch up with the actual thing that you want to let them understand. So in a math class, for instance, where we are dealing with fractions, so you give some basic fractions, proper fractions, improper fractions, some basic ones. And over time, you increase the difficulty levels of the problems that the students need to solve in relation to the fractions. And if you are a student in your learning, you also want to be able to scaffold, meaning that you are beginning at a level which is not so difficult. You start with topics or concepts, explanations that are much more easier to grasp. And then you keep adjusting, looking for definitions that are a bit more complex, moving from the less complex to the more complex, moving from the less complex formulas to the more complex formulas. So gradually, at the end of the day, if you're a teacher, the clues and the support that you'll be giving to the student will be reducing as you go higher and higher in the topic, because over time, what is happening is that in the zone of proximal development, the gap between what they know and what they do not know but can know or independently do with assistance will be closing. And so, even without your presence and your assistance, they can't be able to progress. Another key thing, the third key thing we pick from the zone of proximal development is collaborative learning. So if you are able to learn with your colleagues, your mates, because you are likely to be within the same zone of development, you can, get definitions, formulas, and solutions that are at a level where you understand. Maybe when the teacher teaches, because their level of explanation and all that is a bit higher, you struggle to understand. But if you engage in group works, group meetings, group discussions, chances are that you will be able to get the needed support from your peers in terms of the explanations they may give, the encouragement that they may give. And that is something that can push you to realizing your actual learning potential. And so you are a learner in that group discussion, and you also can be a teacher where you also offer explanations on some of the things that your peers may not understand. So the zone of proximal development, the concept itself, helps us to appreciate group discussions at peer levels. And so if you're a teacher or a tutor, encouraging or giving group assignments and putting students within specific groups where they undertake tasks and complete assignments together can be a way of helping them to reach their full academic or learning potential. And the last one we'll talk about is the whole bit of improvement and continuous development that comes with understanding your ZPD as a learner. And if you're a tutor or a teacher, instructor, the ZPD of your students. And so we understand that at every level, you move higher. The more you move higher, the more there are things that you cannot still do without the needed assistance. And if you understand this as a learner, you would commit yourself to continuous improvement because you know that no matter what I know in a particular topic, for instance, there are more concepts related to that topic that are more difficult or higher. And if I think that I have exhausted all the knowledge related to it, I'll remain static and will not grow. And so there's always this mindset of there's a higher potential I can reach. There's something I know now, but there's something I do not know. And if I go searching for the knowledge from teachers, from colleagues that probably have a better understanding of the topic online and all that, I'll reach the next level of my academic potential. This is important because of the need for continuous learning if you want to be a good student or if you want to make your students good, excellent students. So the zone of proximal development, once again, is a concept in the area of psychology, educational psychology, that teaches us to understand that learners have a certain zone that they operate in, what they can do on their own, and what they can do if given the needed guidance or assistance. And so, if you are a learner, you want to understand what level you are at for a particular subject, a particular topic, so that you can seek the needed help from colleagues that are probably doing better or are more intelligent comparatively. And you can also seek the assistance of your teachers, your parents, and other people who can help you to understand concepts better and move from one level to the other level, from a lower level of understanding to a higher level of understanding, from a lower level of being able to accomplish certain learning related tasks to a higher level of being able to accomplish or undertake more difficult tasks, and learn to scaffold, learn to start from what is a bit easier. If you are learning, you don't go looking for materials that are difficult to understand. Start from the basic ones, from your notes that you made in class, from friends trying to explain something to you, before you move on to more complex explanations that you may find from online and from other sources. This is important so that you develop in your own way at your own pace and become a better learner. I hope that you find this very useful and you will learn to operate at a proper zone of proximal development so that you can attain what is within your reach, and the things that are not within your reach, you will be able to know them and not end up over, stretching yourself because of those. Thank you and see you in another video on the channel. Bye bye.